Donnie and Dolly, the team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
A reminder again that as we wait for Thomas Drance, our title sponsor, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. Just before we get to Thomas, Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox, Bobby in Vancouver. Yes, Horvat and Pettersson have been the two best Canucks, but don't forget about Luke friggin' Shen.
Yep.
Luke friggin' Shen. This is a true Canadian writing this, okay? Keeps other teams on alert and is just a warrior, plays hard every shift, every night. The fight with Austin Watson last night, a lot of lefts there, if you like that sort of thing. Ryan, sorry to bring up fighting. I apologize for that. But Bobby in Vancouver appreciates big number 2.
You love Luke Shen. You absolutely love what he brings to the table. He's a great teammate. You talk about culture. You talked about Kevin Bieksa had talked about guys and culture. That's one of the guys in culture that brings a team dressing room together is a Luke Shen.
Yeah, people at The Athletic will say the same about Thomas Drance.
No.
He joins us now in the wake of the Canucks 6-4 win over the Senators yesterday. He's with the Canucks, traveling with them. Your takeaway from last night. Thomas, how are you?
Well, mostly my takeaway is that my back's sore from being such a culture carrier. You need to carry a big load when you work with Rick, as you know, Donnie.
Yeah, I know.
I heard you're I heard you're in cancer in the Athletic dressing room.
Yeah, I think that's a little harsh, to be honest with you. That's a little unfair. I better get my agent to call you and tell you the opposite so that you'll say that.
Yeah. I know your agent. I'll fix him.
Yeah, fair. Hey, boys, how are you? Just arrived
good.
in Montreal. Excited to be here.
Yeah.
I thought it was a Rorschach test game, right? The ink blotter from that 6-4 win could be read however
Thomas,
you want.
Thomas, don't bring up stuff that you learned in college because neither of us know what the hell you're talking about.
Don't use
okay?
words that we don't know.
Yeah.
And you know what?
You know what I mean.
I don't.
Yeah,
sure.
You know
Absolutely.
those ink blot
yes,
tests,
of course.
And you can see whatever you want. Okay,
now you're
that's a
speaking our
Rorschach
language.
test.
There you go.
Okay. That's what the game was last night. You look at it and you can see whatever you want to see. Do you want to see a team that's still unstructured, that's not winning sustainably? They gave you that. They gave you that in spades in the first 40 minutes. Outchanced 2-1 by the Ottawa Senators through the first 2 periods. If you want to see a team with a ton of heart, the type of heart that can get them back in this race, they gave you that too with a third period in which they absolutely took over and didn't stop pushing until they absolutely made sure that they would get those 2 points. Great game from Bo Horvat, great game from Spencer Martin, big win in an ugly game for the Vancouver Canucks. It was a win for Team Chaos. Any take that you want to have about this team, about that game, about what it means, they're all valid in the wake of what we saw in the nation's capital, or at least on the outskirts of the nation's capital on Tuesday night.
What is Spencer Martin doing? I think there's an obvious answer here, but what is he doing that Thatcher Demko isn't?
Well, look, I thought the Ottawa Senators, here's one thing that I really took away from the game. When you put Bo Horvat on a different line than JT Miller, I sort of saw the game last night as Vancouver's top 6 getting pretty handily outplayed, boys, right? Yeah. I mean, if you think about the balance of scoring chances, who do you think about? You think about DeBrincat, you think about Batherson, you think about Tkachuk, and the breakaways that he had and all the rush chances that his line generated. And what else do you think about? You think about some of the missed chances from the Senators, those breakaways that Spencer Martin stopped for sure, but also some of those open nets that they couldn't quite find, some of those posts that they hit, some of those shots where Batherson's at the side of the net, Cage yawning at him, and he just can't quite find the handle. I thought Spencer Martin was very good for 30 minutes, and then I thought there was some good fortune on the Canucks side as well. At the end of the day, you can't put together 30 minutes like that where you're just absolutely peppered with scoring chances and only give up 2 goals unless there's a bit of good fortune on your side. That's the nature of the league. I don't know that Spencer Martin's outplaying Thatcher Demko by a wide margin. The numbers say he is. He certainly gave the Canucks something last night that they haven't had in a Demko start yet, in my opinion, which is that he stole a result, right? An absolute heist was pulled off in the outskirts of Ottawa, and it was Spencer Martin wearing the criminal's glasses, the burglar glasses, to pull it off. So, the sneakers. So, yeah, I mean, that's the sort of performance the Canucks haven't yet gotten from Demko, but I'm fading the idea that Spencer Martin is, significantly outplaying Demko, or certainly not outplaying Demko by as wide a margin as the numbers would suggest.
Mm-hmm. Thomas, your thoughts on Jim Rutherford, the comments, the interview that went not only big in Vancouver, but all around the National Hockey League, and how the team responded last night after those comments?
Well, it mattered to the players, I think, that they won. I mean, Bo Horvat admitted it took a little bit of prodding, but yeah, it was a sweet win. Bruce Boudreau took a little bit of an opportunity to stunt, right? Saying, I had no doubt that the players would come out like that in the third period. I know the character in that room. And noting that nobody, no person, no human being likes to have negative things said about them. So obviously it mattered. But, again, the ink blotter test, boys, right? If the Canucks were so inspired and fired up by that commentary, why weren't they fired up in the first 40 minutes? Why did it take their backs being against the wall in a 2-2 game that they probably shouldn't have been tied in for them to begin to respond the way you'd have hoped they'd have responded right from the outset? So, I think it mattered. I do. I also think to some extent, while the room was aware of it, it was a bigger deal to us than it was to the players. And yet, I don't know that you saw like a cohesive, consistent response from the group. I think the first two periods and the way those flowed and how clearly outclassed the Canucks were for the majority of that game until they flipped the script in the third, that to me is not a classic response game. But if you want to argue the opposite, I think that game gave you grounds to do so. That was one where, again, every take is valid. Maximum chaos in the wake of that win.
What will go through your mind as we move along here? By the way, Thomas's key here says Jeff Patterson.
It says Patterson.
Can we do something about that?
Yeah.
It
says...
there we go. Okay.
There you
Beautiful.
Go. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between you and Jeff. He doesn't use as big words as you.
Especially.
Yeah. Oh,
no, and the delivery.
Yeah.
I need to do a lot more modulating of my voice.
Ooh, that's not bad. That's
Radio
not
voice.
bad. What's going to go through your mind when you see the Sedins and Roberto Luongo inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame Monday?
Yeah, well, that one's going to mean a lot to me. I mean, first of all, I grew up watching those guys play, right? I probably am not in the business. I mean, realistically, I'm in the business because of Pavel Bure, but, those guys meant a lot to me when I was in college and growing up as a fan before I became a media guy. And then, of course, I had the chance to work with Roberto in Florida toward the end of his career. Like, I saw him play. I worked with him for about 150 of his 1,000+ games, and those were the hard ones, right, gentlemen?
Yeah,
those were the games where, he was recovering from hip surgery. It was a very serious operation. He was struggling with durability. The amount of work that I saw him put into just skate in the morning. And then he was still like a 920 guy as a 37, 38, 39-year-old. I was in the room when Roberto Luongo retired. So, yeah, seeing Roberto go into the Hockey Hall of Fame especially is going to mean a lot to me. And then the Twins, too. The Twins, I've had a chance to get to know them. I've had a chance to speak with them recently about their career, about what they're looking forward to on the night of. Won't shock you to learn that the Twins, humble guys who eschew the spotlight, are mostly looking forward, I think, to it being over, which is not to say that they won't be proud, but I do think their comfort zone is not having the spotlight be on them necessarily. I think we saw that throughout their careers. The Sedins are, just the best. They're just the best people. And, I think everything they do is deliberate. I think it's holistic. I think they center their family. They center the community. They've embraced Vancouver. And there's very few people, forget pro athletes, forget high-level pro athletes. There's very few people I've ever met who I admire more than the Twins, not just for what they accomplished as greats in this sport, but, just for how they approach life. The way that they're so consistent, the way that they never have a bad day, look after themselves, are, devoted as fathers and siblings to one another too. The way that their teammates talk about them. I mean, it's glowing and it's deservedly glowing. They're special people. It's going to be a very special night. The most Canucks-centric Hall of Fame induction you'll ever see. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to being there on Monday in Toronto.
Derek Wong is in charge of of keying our guests, our name bars, if you will. He had a muffin earlier today during the show. Yeah. I'm not sure what was in the muffin, but maybe it had an effect on his work today. So there you go, Thomas. Our apologies. Jeff is coming up at 11 o'clock. Safe travels.
No worries. I'm 0% offended. Thank you for having me, gentlemen.